Hello, I'm Chuck McLennan. In this installment of Buick Know-How, we're going to talk about instant comebacks. If you've been a Know-How participant for a while, you'll probably remember some instant comebacks from previous installments, like the false water leak in cars with the low lift-over trunk. An instant comeback starts with a customer concern. When the customer brings the car to your dealership, they expect that it will be repaired. But what if the car can't be repaired? It might be that the concern is based on what the customer expects from the car, rather than how the car is designed to work. Although you might say that some customers' expectations are unrealistic, the concern is definitely real in the customer's mind. The instant comeback happens when the car and the customer just pass through the service process without anybody stopping to think about why the customer brought the car in for service. Everybody just does their job. Remember, as soon as you write the car up, you've created an expectation for the customer. If the customer thinks that their vehicle will be repaired when it can't, an endless cycle of customer dissatisfaction will begin. The customer will end up convinced that the car is faulty and that your dealership can't fix it. Let's look at an example where a customer has a concern about the brakes on her Roadmaster. She thinks that they must be worn out. And given the age of the vehicle, the service advisor is initially inclined to believe her.
So you'll call me when you find out how much?
Absolutely. I just need to get an odometer reading. Ms. Stratton, is your odometer reading the actual mileage on the car, or did you have it replaced at some point?
No, that's the actual mileage. This is kind of a weekend car for me. I have a company car that I drive for work. Why?
Well, there's a possibility your brakes are just fine. We can certainly inspect them, just to be sure, but your odometer hasn't even reached 10,000 miles yet. Have you ever had your brakes serviced before?
No, never.
How about when you heard that noise and you felt the pedal vibrating? Were you braking hard on a slippery road surface?
Yes, I was hitting them pretty hard, and it had just started to rain.
Well, you might have pressed the brake pedal hard enough to normally lock up one or more of all of the wheels on a slippery road surface. The noise and the vibration is a characteristic of anti-lock brake system. Did your brakes do anything unusual on the way over here this morning?
No, they were fine, but I was trying to go easy on them.
Well, when your brakes are worn down to the point where rotor damage occurs, you'll hear noise and feel vibration, even with light pedal pressure.
Oh.
It won't be intermittent either. It'll happen every single time you apply the brakes. Now, if you like, I'll ask one of the technicians to give your car a quick road test, and then if they find anything unusual, they can
Those of you who have attended customer care workshops will probably recognize the steps for active listening. First, listen to the customer. Give them your undivided attention. If you have questions, wait until they are all done. Sometimes when you know you're dealing with an instant comeback, it's tempting to jump in and tell the customer that there isn't anything wrong. But it's always best to wait. Then ask questions. Start with the easy questions that relate to the symptoms, like a warning light. Follow through with questions about subjective concerns. Subjective concerns are the ones that sound more like opinions than facts. Third, process the information. Think about past experiences that could help you with the problem. If you're not sure, use your available information resources, like your know-how manuals, a technician, or your service manager. It's perfectly appropriate to go back to the customer to ask clarifying questions. Make sure that whatever you think you heard is what the customer intended to say. Lastly, respond by writing a repair order in most instances. But if you do not think a repair solution is possible, explain that to your customer. Try to use words like characteristic or trait instead of normal. The word normal implies that the customer is abnormal because of their concern. Remember, this problem is important to the customer, or else they would not have brought their car to you. This is particularly true if their concern is safety related. So dismissing a concern with a quick, "Oh, that's normal," can put them on the defensive. In all cases, if your customer seems uneasy, offer to have a technician check it out. This will provide them with the assurance that they need. Owners may just need to be informed about how their car works and reassured that there's nothing wrong. But you still need to be alert for concerns that require a repair. Even when the concern sounds fairly straightforward, you must ask key questions to get to the root cause. You might avoid a situation where a repairable condition is overlooked. Let's take a look at a couple of noise concerns. The first is with the L67 supercharged engine. Now, most people want to hear a roar when they start their engine, but after that, they don't want to hear it at all. In the clip that you're about to see, a customer has a concern about a howling noise from the engine. His last car was a 1993 Park Avenue.
Well, I only hear it when I accelerate hard. It doesn't really sound loud enough to worry about, but it is different. I heard it on the way over here this morning while I was passing a truck.
There's nothing interfering with the drive belts. Did your 1993 Park Avenue have a supercharger?
No, but I didn't think a supercharger made any noise. I had a car with a turbocharged engine before, and that engine never made a sound like this one.
A turbocharger gets its power from the flow of exhaust gases. The supercharger is powered by the engine through this drive belt. It works like a big air compressor that forces more air into the engine.
In that case, why doesn't the engine make that noise all the time?
The supercharger has an internal bypass that stays open under most driving conditions. While the bypass is open, the supercharger has no effect on engine power output, and it stays quiet. The compressed air simply loops back into the intake side of the compressor. When you press down hard on the accelerator, the bypass closes and the supercharger pumps the compressed air into the engine. This will result in a slightly higher noise level than an engine without a supercharger.
Well, that explains that. Like I said, it's not really all that loud, it's just that it's different.
If you hear knocking, clunking, grinding, groaning, or persistent tapping noises, then it's a good idea to get it in here as soon as possible.
Our second noise concern is one nearly everybody has heard before: wind rush. With increased speed limits and more efficient aerodynamic designs, it's getting to be a more commonly heard concern. Since wind rush concerns are almost always subjective, verifying the complaint is important, but the only way to do that is to compare it with another car. You can avoid a lot of frustration with this method, and as necessary, the customer should be prepared for the possibility that there may not be a repair that will improve the condition. In our next clip, you can tell that this customer wasn't prepared, regardless of her initial conversation with the consultant.
Oh, hello, Mrs. Lucas. Here to pick up the Riviera?
Yes. I spoke to your manager this afternoon, and he explained to me that there wasn't anything that could be done for this noise problem. They checked it all over and compared it to a couple of other Rivieras. Apparently, it can't be improved.
Yeah, well, with wind rush, there are a couple of things working against you. The first is the higher speed limits. It wasn't all that long ago. We were all driving 55 miles per hour on the expressways.
Those were the bad old days.
Not even Buicks are exempt from the laws of physics. If you drive faster, the air strikes your car harder.
I can't disagree with that. What else?
Well, today's car body designs are more aerodynamically efficient. This improves fuel economy at highway speeds, but it also increases wind noise from wind rush.
But why does the noise increase?
Well, the moving air causes the noise. An efficient design just doesn't divert the moving air far enough away from the body to prevent all the noise.
Well, at least I know why this car is noisier than my old one. But you're right, the gas mileage is much better than it was before.
The next 5 concerns are personal choice related. Programming personal choice options takes patience. It requires the customer to manipulate familiar controls in unfamiliar ways. The next clip shows you how to activate and deactivate the Twilight Sentinel on the 1997 W body. Although it's possible to cancel the feature each time the engine is shut off by turning the headlights on and off, many customers just can't get into the habit. The customer in this clip is worried about the Twilight Sentinel running her battery down after making frequent short trips and has asked the service consultant to deactivate it altogether.
Here it is under Twilight Sentinel. Now let's see. All doors closed, ignition in run. Press and hold the power door lock switch. Cycle the headlamp switch 2 times. Press and hold the power door unlock switch and cycle the headlamp switch 2 times. Then release the power door lock switch.
Oh, but what was that?
That was the status of the Twilight Sentinel. 1 chime means that it's now turned off. Now, if I were to repeat this procedure, you'll hear 2 chimes, and the Twilight Sentinel will be turned back on again.
Well, that's all there is?
Yep, that's it.
Some customers just assume that something is broken if the car doesn't perform as they expect it to. Instead of reading the owner's manual, they bring the car in for service. The next clip shows a customer who can't get the seat recall on his Park Avenue to work. In another example from customer care, the service consultant has formed a partnership with the customer so that they can resolve the problem together. Getting the customer involved in the fix might give them the confidence to try it themselves the next time.
Let's see. Oh, let's see. Driver Information Center, personal choice. Here it is. Turn the ignition on and keep the transaxle in park. Now inform the DIC which driver you are by pressing the unlock button on the transmitter or the appropriate memory seat control. Okay, set me up as driver number 1.
All right, I'll use a key fob right here. And it says driver number 1 right up here. Can you see that?
Oh, yeah. Okay, the next step is press and hold the English metric button for 5 seconds. Welcome to Buick option feature will appear in the display. Okay, now it says the next display will be your driver number. You're now in the selection mode and the DIC is ready to program your personal choice memory.
Okay, now skip to where it tells you how to change modes.
Okay. Here. To change modes, move the arrow on the display between on and off by pressing the English metric button. Once you've made your selection, press the reset button and your selection will be retained in memory.
Okay, let's see what seat recall is set for. Here's the problem. It was turned off. So we'll turn it on. Next question. Do you want the seat to move to your memory position or the exit position when you unlock the car?
Well, I don't use the exit button, but my wife does. So I'd want to move my memory position to my memory position.
Not a problem. Well, that part is done.
Some customers dislike the horn honking and the lights flashing when they lock or unlock their cars with the remote control. The next clip shows a demonstration of setting the security feedback in the W body.
All right, doors closed, ignition and run. Press and hold the power door lock switch. And press lock on the remote. Okay, it's now in mode 4, which flashes the headlights and blows the horn. Do you want just the headlamps or nothing at all when you use the remote?
Oh, just the headlights, please.
Okay, that'll be mode 3. 3 more presses. Listen for the 3 chimes. Release the button. We're all set.
Parallel Park Assist has been added to the Park Avenue and the Riviera for 1998. When reverse is selected, the right outside mirror tilts down a few degrees, so the driver can see the curb more easily. But not all drivers find this feature useful. In the Riviera, this feature is controlled with the power mirror selector switch. To turn Parallel Park Assist off, the switch must be set to the right-hand mirror adjust position. In the Park Avenue, this feature is controlled from the DIC and can be set differently for driver 1 and driver 2. You set it up just like seat recall. Turn on the ignition and hold the English metric button in for 5 seconds. Press the English metric button if you need to change the setting and repeat the process for the other driver if necessary. If you can't get it to work right, the memory seat module may be defective. See Service Bulletin 738125A for more information. Some customers know that certain features can be changed, but they're not quite sure of how to do it. Our customer with the 1997 Regal wants to have all of the doors stay locked when she shifts into park. In her old Regal, this was done by pulling a fuse, but that's all she can remember.
Okay, doors closed, ignition in run. Press and hold the power door lock switch. Cycle the transmission out of and back into park. Okay, well, that's mode 3. 3 more times should do it. There's mode 4, mode 1, and mode 2. Release the switch. Okay, that's done.
Oh, wow, that was fast. But I thought you'd have to pull a fuse or...
Not anymore.
Some Buick features do not call nearly enough attention to themselves. In some cases, customers have never had these features available before, so the features never even get looked for.
But you're right, the gas mileage is much better than it was before. Oh, I just thought of something. I can't get my daughter to wear the shoulder belt when she sits in the back seat. She says it rubs her neck. Isn't there some kind of adjustment?
Have you tried the Comfort Guide? It's a clip that pulls the shoulder belt down and away. There's one tucked into each end of the rear seat back.
I didn't know they were there.
Looks like your car is ready. Come on, I'll show you where they are.
One problem that you might have is remembering what model year certain features appeared and on which models. We've included several charts in your reference manual. They might come in handy when a customer calls you and the car is not available to look at.
No, everything's fine with the Regal. I just bought a 1996 LeSabre from my brother-in-law, and I need to bring it in. Your shop was so busy last week that I thought I'd better make an appointment.
No problem. What seems to be wrong with the LeSabre?
Well, the air conditioning keeps cutting in and out. I can feel it when I'm driving slowly. It makes the car bump every once in a while. My Regal never does that, and this is a newer car.
Does the air get cold and stay cold?
Oh, yes, that works okay.
Does anything else need attention?
Oh, yeah, there is one other thing. The left rear inside door handle is broken. You can open the door, but only from the outside. The inside handle doesn't do anything at all.
Okay, before you bring it in, check the child security lock on the edge of the door near the latch. If it's set the wrong way, the door can't be opened from the inside.
Oh, that's probably what it is. My nephew used to ride in the back seat, and they probably set the locks for him and forgot to undo the left one. I didn't think Buicks had that feature. My Regal doesn't have that, does it?
No, it doesn't. LeSabres have had it since 1992, but Regals didn't get it until 1997.
Wow, well, you know everything. Hey, can you tell me what's wrong with the air conditioning, too?
Actually, your air conditioning is doing what it's supposed to. The AC compressor in your Regal has variable displacement. It's called a V5, and it's always on as long as the AC is on. When cooling is sufficient, the compressor continues to spin, but it gradually reduces its load so it doesn't work as hard. The LeSabre has an HD6 AC compressor, which has a fixed displacement. When extra cooling is no longer required, the compressor shuts off. When cooling is needed again, the compressor has to be started from a dead stop. That's the bump that you're feeling. I don't think you have anything to worry about.
Our last 2 instant comebacks were brought to our attention by service technicians. The first one is a concern that the 1997 Regal is difficult to shift from park. This is a good example of a subjective concern. So the customer's car needs to be compared to 1 or 2 identical cars. In cases like these, it may not be possible to repair the car, so you need to focus on repairing the relationship with the customer. Let's go back to the customer with the 1997 Regal. The service consultant has just finished setting the automatic door lock mode.
Well, did you notice how hard it was to move that shift lever?
Well, yeah, I did, but there's really nothing unusual about your car. I do have a question for you, though. Do you find it difficult all of the time or just when you're parked on a hill?
Oh, it's difficult all the time. And I already learned one expensive lesson about why you should set the parking brake when you park on a hill. I'm worried that that'll happen again.
Well, I agree. It does require a little more effort, but this condition won't cause a transmission repair down the road. The reason why it takes more effort is that the shift gate and the shift lever are both shorter. You don't have to move your arm as far, but you don't have as much leverage as you did with your old Regal. The extra force is absorbed by the shift lever and cable, not the transmission. Most customers prefer a shifter with a precise feel, And on the practical side, some changes were necessary to accommodate the new center console. You see, that's where most people want their car phones installed nowadays. There's just not as much room as before.
Oh, so there's nothing wrong with this?
Well, to me, your shifter feels no different than any other 1997 Regal. And I've driven quite a few, as you might imagine. Now, tell me something. Was this shifter any easier to move when the car was delivered?
No. I suppose I assumed it would loosen up after a couple of months, but it hasn't.
Well, Ms. Holly, I wish I could tell you that it could be improved, but right now, there's really nothing that can be done. I can tell you, though, that General Motors will issue a service bulletin if and when a modification becomes available. It's very important to everyone here that you're happy with your car. But I'm positive that you'd be very unhappy if I told you that we can make it better when I know that we can't.
Our final instant comeback concern is that the parental display in the Regal and Century may be intermittently dim or unreadable. What could be happening is that the display is being blinded by sunlight. For this concern, you need to ask the customer under what conditions the display is too dim. This is important because a similar symptom can be caused by a faulty chasm chip in the instrument cluster. Obviously, if the display is being blinded by an external source of light, replacing the instrument cluster will not correct the concern. Let's take a look.
Now, did you notice anything strange about this display? It's weird. Sometimes it's so dim that I can't tell what gear I'm in. I can see everything else, so I know it's not my eyes getting bad.
Well, I kept my eye on it when we were reprogramming your personal choice options, and it really looked fine to me. Now, we have received a couple of comments about this concern from other customers, so we did a little investigating. And what we found was the display disappears when sunlight hits it at just the right angle. Have you ever noticed that the display is too dim at night?
No. Now that you mention it, it seems that I most often notice it in the morning after I back out of the garage. And the sun is usually behind me. But why does it do that?
Well, that's a characteristic of a vacuum fluorescent display. Now, first of all, the display must allow light to pass through it in order to be able to let light shine out of it. And second, this type of display only emits a few frequencies of light, unlike the sun, which emits every frequency of visible light.
Oh.
So what's happening? The sunlight's passing through the display and reflecting back out in such a way that it cancels the light that's being produced by that display.
Well, it's been a long time since I've had a science lesson, but I think I understand what's going on. But why did they build it this way? Is there anything I can do about it?
Well, a vacuum fluorescent display has a very long service life, and it can be powered by a microchip, unlike regular light bulbs that burn out and require larger transistors. It was designed to be readable in total darkness when you can't see the center console. Now, you could look at the console to see what gear you're in, or you could try shadowing the display with your hand. That will block out some of the sunlight.
If you have a suggestion for an instant comeback that you would like to tell others about, write it down and fax it in along with your quiz. When we get a suggestion, we'll research it and include it in a future installment of Buick Know-How. You may recall I introduced the Passkey 3 personal automotive security system in our September 1996 Buick Know-How release, covering the redesigned 1997 Park Avenue. Now that the car has been in service for a while, I'm sure most of you at the Buick dealerships have seen Park Avenue's Passkey system for yourselves. In fact, a few people have expressed concerns about obtaining duplicate keys. For instance, what do you do when you have a car in your service area and no key available? In this program, we'll show you the procedures for obtaining key codes and replacing keys. But first, let's review quickly how the Passkey 3 system works. A miniature transponder is embedded in the head of the special ignition key. The Passkey 3 module, positioned in the steering column, contains coils that surround the lock cylinder. When the ignition key is inserted in the cylinder, these coils energize the transponder, causing it to transmit a radio signal back to the module. This unique signal might be thought of as an electronic fingerprint. The passkey 3 module validates this signal, and if it is correct, it sends a Class 2 message to the Powertrain Control Module, or PCM. Upon receiving this Enable password, the PCM enables the fuel system and provides a ground for the starter relay. If an invalid transponder signal is received from the key, the module sends a Class 2 Disable password to the PCM, which will then not enable the fuel system or provide starter relay ground for approximately 3 minutes. Park Avenue has delivered with a total of 4 ignition keys. The 2 black master keys operate the ignition and all other locks. The gray-colored valet keys can also be used to start the car and operate the door locks. However, they will not operate the locks for the interior storage compartments or the trunk. They will also not operate the valet lockout switch on the IP. So, essentially, there are 2 elements to the key. First, there's the mechanical key cut that actually turns the lock tumblers. Then, there's the electronic portion that signals the passkey 3 module, which in turn allows the PCM to enable the fuel system and the starter relay. Obviously, both elements are necessary in order to unlock and operate the Park Avenue. And that brings us to the question, what do you do when the keys are lost, or what if the keys are accidentally locked in the car? Actually, that's less likely to occur with Park Avenue's lockout protection feature that prevents the doors from locking when the key is left in the ignition. But it could still happen if, say, the doors were manually locked with the key in the ignition, or if the keys are left sitting in the car. In either case, the first step is to obtain a passkey with the correct mechanical cut. The mechanical portion of the key is a 10-cut design that's essentially similar to the keys used on Riviera and Skylark models. 4 barcoded tags provided with the new Park Avenue contain a 4-digit key code. This 4-digit code is used to obtain the 10-digit code that is used to actually cut the key. The 10-digit code is obtained by looking up the 4-digit code in the Park Avenue key cutting chart. Remember, this chart is for Park Avenue models only. A copy of the chart will be provided with the Buick Know-How Kit. The barcoded tags should be handled carefully, so they are available in case keys are lost. For safekeeping at the dealership, the folks at Buick recommend that one tag be placed in the customer's sales file and the other in the service file. The other 2 tags should be given to the customer along with some advice. Recommend to customers that they store the tags in a safe place and not to keep them in the storage compartment of the car. Once you have the 10-digit code, new keys can be made using the familiar handheld key cutter. However, if the cutter is not maintained in peak condition or if it is worn, it will not provide the most accurate method of cutting the new style 10-cut keys. A more accurate key cutting option is a standard key grinding machine, as used by many locksmiths. Dealerships that handle a large volume of keys may consider obtaining computerized key cutting equipment, like this Curtis system seen here. The 4-digit key code that appears on the barcode tag also appears on the vehicle invoice. Oh, and speaking of that, there is one other situation that may occur. On a small number of early Park Avenue models, the key codes on the vehicle invoice do not match the mechanical key code charts. In the unlikely event that you encounter one of these cars, try first to obtain one of the barcode tags that came with the car. Those codes are always correct. If you are unable to locate a tag in order to duplicate the mechanical key cut, then you'll need to have a locksmith obtain the mechanical cut information from the cylinder. Once a key with the correct mechanical cut has been obtained, it's a relatively simple matter to program the new key to the passkey 3 module. Unlike with passkey 2, no VATS equipment is needed to interrogate key resistance pellets. There is a VATS code listed on the new vehicle invoice, but that's simply a computer function, and the code has no real significance. The key programming procedures were covered fully in Buick Know-How 199-200. We'll begin with the Quick Learn procedure. This is used to learn a new key when a valid normal passkey is available. To do this, I first insert the existing passkey in the ignition switch and turn it to run. The security telltale may light briefly until the key is recognized. If the key is recognized immediately, the security telltale may not light. The telltale remains on when an invalid key is used, or when passkeys self-diagnostics detect a fault in the system. Let's continue. With the telltale light out, remove the normal key. Then, within 10 seconds, insert the key to be learned and rotate the ignition switch to run. The security telltale turns on and remains lit until the new key code is learned. This procedure can be used for both normal or valet keys, but keep in mind, valet keys have a different mechanical cut and will operate only the door locks and the ignition switch. To learn additional keys, reinsert the original normal key and repeat the quick learn procedure. Remember though, the coded key module can learn a maximum of 10 keys. Our second key learning method, the auto learn procedure, can be used when no valid passkey is available. This programming routine is similar to the quick learn procedure, but because of the passkey's security provisions, it takes considerably longer. First, I insert the key to be learned in the ignition switch and turn it to run. When the key code module sees the new key, it lights the security telltale for approximately 10 minutes. When the security telltale turns off, turn the ignition switch to off and remove the key. Then, reinsert the key and turn it to run a second time. Again, the security telltale will turn on for about 10 minutes. When the telltale turns off, remove the key, insert it a third time, and wait for the security telltale to illuminate for another 10 minutes, for a total of 30 minutes. For owner's convenience, the quick learn procedure for programming additional keys is included in the 1998 Park Avenue Owner's Manual. And that's our passkey update. I hope you find it useful.